Hang on, let me see if I can shut it off.
You
Nope.
guys hear me? All right.
Zeus,
Yeah, I'm here
why am I recording now? I didn't touch anything.
because I gave you ownership of it because my camera's not working for some reason.
So why would I hit?
There we go. Shit. I don't have a camera.
Yeah, why is it recording?
I don't know. Hit pause.
There's no pause button.
It's up on the top left.
No, it says recording. There's no pause.
Put the mouse over it, Jack.
I'm doing that.
Okay. Well,
All right, wait a minute.
I've got
Wait a
control.
minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
I think I've got control again.
Yeah, you do.
Okay. We're keeping this in. I'm gonna work on the camera for now, but let's just get rolling. Who's hosting? Mike, Jason,
I'm
Jackie?
I'll be lucky to stay awake to this episode, so I don't think I can host.
Yeah, Zeus, why don't you just do your spiel?
Well, this week, first of all, look for us or you three and not me because my camera's not working. On Facebook, under the Friends of Zeus podcast. Also Spotify, I'm putting them on slowly there, and YouTube on the Giants Jack channel, but you can also look for it under the Friends of Zeus podcast. So this week, I thought we would talk about the border crisis. Because
Whoa! Crisis?
well,
Okay, no, I didn't know there was a crisis now.
I would call it a crisis.
I know, I'm just being.
I'd
funny.
say that your picture behind you is rather inaccurate, though. There's a lot more tents from where I saw. I was just briefly looking into it, and the thing that I find most amazing is, didn't we have this whole border issue like 4 years ago under a different administration, and pretty much the same solutions have been implemented of kids are separated from their families still. We're sending people back. It's literally all the same. So this is not to indict Trump. It's just to say that there was a lot of finger pointing. It's actually kind of, I guess, endorsing him a little, that there was a lot of finger pointing, and literally the same thing is happening now. Maybe we give them nice flights back to the country that they come from. But another thing I found out that we're doing is we'll try and send them back, but the Mexican government, I guess international law, doesn't have to accept expulsions from the country. So we've been flying them to another part of the southern border, like in El Paso or in like Southern California, and trying to send them back over there. So it's FUBAR. And actually we're now, just like then, sending back just as many, if not more, people back across the border as we did back in the Trump administration. I think in the last couple months, it's like 72% of the people that come to the border get sent back. So I find it interesting. I don't think there's been any change. I don't think anybody can claim a win on this one at all.
Well,
Yeah,
go ahead, Mike.
no, I just have to disagree, Zeus. I
Yeah,
don't know.
me
I don't
too.
know where you're getting that data from. I mean, what we're witnessing right in the first months here of Biden's administration is pretty unprecedented, actually. Conservative estimates are that we've allowed at least like 600,000 people into the interior of the country since January,
Yep.
The bridge behind me here in Del Rio that had about 15,000 Haitian migrants from Chile, which a lot of people don't ever talk about, aren't there anymore. This is a recent picture. And again, conservative estimates from the Biden administration, from the Department of Homeland Security, estimates that at least 75% of those 15,000 are now in the interior of the United States. They were not. That is a lie. We have an administration that is flat out lying. And the reason it's happening, the big question, is because the Biden administration and specifically the Democrat Party want it to happen. That is why it is happening. Now, there's a lot of reasons why that may or may not be, but that's the reason, because this problem, I'm not saying it was solved, but it was under control, much like Afghanistan was under control. And the decisions that were made to kind of send this off the rails have been on purpose. Now, what that purpose is debatable, but it's definitely been on purpose. There's been a conscious decision to have this happen. It's not an accident.
Well, hey,
okay, so here's the deal. The information I got is from the American Immigration Council. I have to assume that it's somewhat legit. And again, I'm not exactly all for just sending everybody back to the horrible places they were running from.
I am.
Well, we can differ. That's fine.
We can get into the basis for actually seeking asylum and how you do that and why you do that, and that's a big part of it. But if you're acknowledging that America is better and these countries are shithole countries, then I assume you voted for Trump twice.
Who's that? Me?
Yeah, you.
Anyone?
No, not a chance. Not a chance in hell. But that doesn't mean I don't. Wait, hold on. That doesn't mean I don't.
If they're not,
regret. Hold on.
If they're not shithole countries, then what's the problem, Zeus?
Okay. Now, if I may finish, I'm not. I did not vote for Trump. Do I regret voting for Biden? Absolutely. So don't get me wrong. But actually, and again, this is all just based on this organization being legit, and I would assume so. Trump actually admitted more people in February and March of 2020 than they have so far under this administration. But this administration,
that's impossible.
It's not. I mean, don't question me. Question the American Immigration Council. It's again, you gotta. I'm going from what should be a legitimate source, but it's neither here nor there. It's the same effing problem. We got people at our borders.
Yeah.
What do we do about it? And yes, I do get that they're coming from shithole countries. But let me ask you this, okay? And I'm just playing devil's advocate.
I know that's what we do, dude.
I don't want a billion people coming into this country. I do realize that terrorists can sneak in under that, like all that stuff. I get all that. But I'll tell you what, if I'm running away from something and I got my family and I got to protect them, I can't actually say that I'm not going to try and cross a fucking border if I get. Well, let me finish.
No, I do. So I totally get that.
I'm not going to sit there and lollygag waiting for whoever's coming after me. Say it's me. Say they're coming after me and mine.
I get it.
Sit there on a border. I'm going to try and cross the river too. So to what you're saying, I get it. But I also get that people are fleeing. They're not coming to, they're fleeing from. That's what.
Fleeing from what?
Yeah, right. That's
you name it.
point.
You know what? When people are leaving en masse at this level, they are going away from something.
No,
And what is that?
50,000. You know what?
They're coming to something.
I think it's a matter of perspective. I think
I know, Zeus. I get it. This is the greatest country in the history of fucking the world, and we have a lot of good shit here. That's why they're coming. and we have an administration that's saying come. That's why they're coming.
Again, the numbers here say 72% were turned away. So
Oh my God. All right. Well,
I don't think, Zeus,
it's
I
a
looked
legit
up,
organization, man. I can't argue the numbers.
it's an advocacy organization that specializes in connecting people with lawyers to fight deportations, such and so forth. It's not a government organization. It's a for-profit advocacy organization.
I
At
mean,
least what I'm seeing.
yep.
But listen, here's the thing. I mean, it's not simple, but in some ways it's pretty simple. A nation that does not have control of its borders is not a sovereign nation by definition. If you don't have borders that you control as a nation, then you're not a sovereign nation.
then there's no sovereign nations, my friend.
What do you
Yeah,
mean?
there are.
No nation has complete control over their borders.
Well, too,
Yeah, they
yes,
do.
I would say yes, no, they do. Try moving to England without proper paperwork and see what happens to you.
Yeah, no, try Hungary.
Try going to Mexico without proper papers and see what happens to you. Look, here's the thing.
In answer to your England question, Polish do it all the time.
No, Poland's actually got pretty strict immigration laws, dude.
Yeah, but Polish people are in England all over the place,
Yeah.
undocumented, all that.
Here's the thing, and we kind of gotta unpack this first, and I'll use the recent example of people who, and we talked about this on the thread, people who are anti-vaccine mandates. In other words, they don't believe that the federal government or the state governments or local governments should be able to force people or coerce people into getting the vaccine. The media, the Democrat media in this country, calls those people anti-vaxxers, which the term anti-vaxxer has a lot of negative connotation, obviously. So if you are someone like this guy who believes it's probably a good idea to get a vaccine if you have certain issues like high blood pressure, or you're overweight, or you're of a certain age, and you talk to your doctor and you feel it's a good idea to get the vaccine, and you get the vaccine. However, you don't believe that it's a good idea to force people, other people, to get the vaccine, that they should have that same choice. The CNNs and all the alphabet people call you an anti-vaxxer. So with immigration, the same dynamic is going on, or has been going on, where you have legit refugee seekers, people that are, in being threatened with death, persecution, torture, whatever. There are laws in this country, international laws, treaties that are well established, well known. It's not complicated about how that is handled. And generally speaking, most of these treaties are that you go to the closest country to you that's part of the treaty, and that is where you seek refuge as a refugee, and you seek asylum because your life is in imminent danger, or that of your families, or what have you. Then you have migrants in our country, and Mexico, and other countries in south of Mexico have a long tradition of having migrants that travel, back in the last century would travel north into California during agricultural seasons, to pick food, and then they would travel elsewhere to pick food. And there were all kinds of treaties and all kinds of stuff dealing with migrants. We have illegal aliens. These are people that, like we would be if we just strolled across the border into Mexico, we would be an illegal alien in Mexico. So people that just, for whatever reason, decide to come in here, they're illegal aliens. We have resident aliens.
It's no fun being an illegal alien.
I'm saying we have resident aliens. We have people that come here that are, have visas. They have it's a benefit to the host country to have them here. We have just immigrants, people that want to move here. They become naturalized citizens. So we have all these different terms, but the Democrat media, they're all migrants, or they're all immigrants, and you're not allowed to have any distinction between them. And everyone is referred to, as, oh, they're refugees, they're fleeing, that they have economic issues. Well, that doesn't rise to the level of being a refugee. Just because you come from a s-hole country that you can't get a job in and your economy sucks, that's not something. Again, this isn't me saying it. It's not just the United States. This is well established international law, but we are being propagandized. And are there people that come to the southern border that are in dire straits? 100%. It's not the majority of them, right? And when we have them come in and we have all these different ways where, okay, you have to come see a judge in 90 days or in 9 months or whatever. And that's just it's a farce. I mean, that's no one's coming back to see the judges once they're released. And then you have our government that's putting people on buses, airplanes, trains, and sending them to the interior of our country, right? We had schools shut down for COVID, and we have people coming across the border. They're from Chile. They were refugees in Chile, not, they weren't coming directly from Haiti. Haiti has a 1% vaccination rate. And we're not vaccinating these people. We're just sending them in. And I still got to hear on, this administration, we have to be at 98% vaccination before we can be through with this, thing. So Zeus, to answer your question, there is so much rhetorical nonsense around this issue. It's incredibly difficult to have a serious and honest conversation about it because the waters are so poisoned. They're so poisoned, purposely so. And I'll get to that later, but it's not,
Well,
yeah.
I mean, Mike, you hit on a lot of the things I wanted to mention because I did a little homework, and they're kind of making the border a racial thing now, which is awful because that like you just pointed out, that's not the issue at all. Like South Park actually satirized this like 20 years ago with the whole time traveling aliens that were invading the country, and they weren't called
wet. Took our gerbs.
Right. They took our jabs. Right. Yeah, and they didn't call them wetbacks. They had another name.
Wow.
They didn't.
Wetback.
No, they didn't call them that. They called them something else that was obviously a metaphor for the immigration crisis going on 25 years ago. Whatever that episode aired with the rednecks and they took our jabs or whatever.
Took a gerb.
It's not that, but when 15,000 alleged Haitians show up and they're building like structures out of twigs under a fucking international bridge.
No, those are tents. They're not lean-tos. They're tents. Give them some props.
Okay, I'll give them props for me.
They got some REI merchandise there.
Yeah, the Sports Depot is going to have a lot of job offerings for tent building. Yeah, that's going to be great. But no, I got some numbers here. And from what I found out, there are, what is it? Oh shit, I fucked it up. There's like 6,000 plus border interactions a day in 2021, which is a record high, which I think is like 1.5 million people. Right?
Yeah.
53% of those, that was the number they gave us before, were granted Title 42 exemptions. Meaning under the asylum rules that you talked about, Mike, and the court date set, we're talking about releasing them into the public in America pending their court date, which could take anywhere from 6 months to 2 years. Okay, so that's one thing. which by the way is enough time to have babies, do all that. There were 200,000 interactions at the border in July alone. 1 month. I think it was a senator named Ron Johnson. Is that right, Mike?
Yeah,
Okay. He was going at it with Mayorkas.
he's the head of DHS.
Yes. And Mayorkas doesn't know the numbers.
You're just saying stuff.
No, he doesn't know the numbers. Like he said, no, Senator, you're wrong. He said, okay, well, prove me wrong. What are the real numbers? And Mayorkas was like, well, I don't have those handy, which is unbelievable. Now, apparently under Donald Trump, there were 840 roughly interactions a day, which is a lot. I mean, like I heard 842 a day. And I'm like, that's a lot. Like that's, I know we have a lot of guys on the border and whatever, but it's a lot of people that were trying to come through while Trump was president. Now it's 6,000 plus, which is nuts. And then also with Trump, 89% of the 842 interactions were expelled. Okay, 89%. Today it's maybe 47%. And Mike, you and I know it's lower than that.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be. The bridge behind Mike was cleared out because of bad optics. They actually used that language. And supposedly after the whipping incident, BLM was going to show up and have a protest. And so Biden said, this is bad optics. Get them out of there. And I think the number was like, what was it, Mike? 15,000?
That's what I had read, about 15,000.
Yeah, but only about 1,200 were deported.
Correct. Even though the administration was at the same time saying they're all being sent back. I mean, they flat out lie. I mean,
They lied. Other things to note. At one point, we were getting all the footage from like drone photographs, and the FAA shut down the drones by the airport.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you're not living in an Orwell book, wake the fuck up.
Yeah, they're not even trying to hide it anymore. I
No.
mean, it's so in your face now. It's not even astonishing. Again, all of this stuff, like this authoritarianism and this iron fist, that we're really seeing reveal itself. We're starting to see the teeth come out. This is nothing new. I mean, read a history book. This has happened again and again and again in many countries, and we think we're like absolved from that. Like that, it can't happen here. I think there's people that just have no. It's not that they're supporting this. It's just they have no idea what is going on. They have no concept of how effed up things are right now and how close we are to really the point of no return with the way things are going in this country. I mean, again, I know we won't get into the $5 trillion budget bill that isn't a budget bill, but I mean, there's things that are going. It's so much. It's like so much going on. I mean, the one thing too about immigration that's hilarious to me. It's like for anyone that thinks this isn't political, this is 1,000% political. Do you guys remember a few months ago when Cubans were having an uprising, from all accounts, seemingly spontaneous.
Yeah.
And then our corrupt party press here was like, well, they're protesting COVID. Like they wouldn't give them a voice. They wouldn't give those people a voice. And Mayorkas, the same guy, right, that's testifying this week, was like, no way, if anyone arrives here on our shores, we'll turn them around. And they did. And Cubans, if you're aware of this, tend to be conservative, and the majority vote Republican.
Right.
This administration wanted nothing to do with Cubans coming in this country. They were treated with, like, you want to talk about like cattle prods and whips, man. I mean, just metaphorically.
Or Venezuelans.
Yeah. I mean, again, I would urge anyone, you guys, other people, engage with people in your community that are from other countries. I mean, about a year and a half ago, it wasn't a year and a half ago, last November, I had this series of amazing conversations with this lady who came from Nicaragua, and not that long ago. And it was like 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And she came here like with a sister and like her son and like an aunt. And she's like, everyone else in my family was killed, And she, again, just the perspective, people who think that stuff can't happen here, stuff doesn't start going sideways. We've been hearing that there's 11 million illegal immigrants in our country since George W. Bush was in office. Does anyone believe that it's still 11 million people? They will never increase that, They never increase that. Going back to the whole thing with this whole story with the mounted Border Patrol agents, and whatever, it was objectively proven that they were not whips. And days later, the alphabet media was still using the term whips. I mean, our own president was like, these people are going to pay, blah, 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 blah. This is all political. There has nothing to do. I mean, when was the last time you saw Washington do something that based on humanitarianism? Please. I'll take volunteers. I mean, I'd love to see it. They certainly weren't being humanitarian with their Afghanistan pullout policy, that's for sure. So
no.
This is not humanitarian. Humanitarianism has nothing to do with this. Zero. So
yeah,
anyway.
no, Mike, you stole my thunder a little bit, but I did want to point out, and you talked about this too. Like, we already know between the border and, like you mentioned, Afghanistan, how many people are here now? We don't even know. We don't know how many.
Yeah.
But we do know that they're 90% likely to be unvaccinated and maybe COVID positive or whatever. Based on all the other rhetoric that we've heard about COVID. Everybody's got COVID. There's a new variant. There's now a new and improved variant. You could be asymptomatic, walking around, killing kids. These people are not tested.
Stop, Jason.
No. And now we've got unemployed horses.
COVID doesn't bury you.
Unemployed horses. Yeah.
Unemployed. Yeah. These horses have nothing to do now.
These racist white supremacist horses, man. I mean,
Equestrist.
Again, listen, rhetoric, it's like I used to say with Coke, like Coca-Cola. They advertise because it works. Rhetoric is important because it works. And to answer someone's question earlier about, all this being racialized, it's because it works. I mean, have you guys noticed everything is racialized because
everything is racist.
Everything is racist because it shuts people up. It shuts people up, and for good reason, because you lose your job, you lose your tenure, you lose whatever, you lose your Facebook page, you lose your Twitter page. People don't want to talk to you. I mean, it is the scarlet letter, and it's as powerful as you allow it to be. If you go to the the side of like where you just don't give an F about it anymore, it's so much less stressful because
how would you know? You give a shit about everything.
I'm saying I don't give a shit about answering to this rhetoric because I know it's bullshit, and I know I'm not cowed by it because I know it's bullshit. And the second I go 2 levels deep with these people, they're done. They can't keep up. because they're weak-minded. They're trying to bully you. It's like a sumo match in a discussion. They're trying to push you off point by using whip words and things to cow you, and it's ridiculous. I mean, it's absurd on its face.
Yeah, you know what, Mike, though, the problem is there's people watching that sumo match, and they're all going to side with the guy saying that.
Yeah.
So everybody's afraid.
Well,
everyone's afraid.
To Mike's point, I had an interesting conversation the other day about mandating, vaccine mandates, and I'm like, how do you feel about this? And two things I noticed. First of all, people that voted Biden, and I'm one of them. Like I said, I'm not happy with the decision I made. Okay.
Well,
does that mean I wish I voted for Trump? No. Maybe I'd have voted some guy in the middle, whatever. But the point being is, when you talk to people now that you knew voted for Trump at the time, and I'm me, I'm far from shy about stating what's on my mind. I'll be like, how you feeling about that now, right? and the vitriol is not nearly as severe and angry. It's as though some of the wind has left their sails.
Why?
Because I think everybody, I think even people that were staunch Biden people are having trouble with the realization of what's going on in the country since he's become president. I don't think anybody's happy. I just think people don't like to admit that they made a mistake. I think that takes a great deal of character. So, I give them a lot of leeway with that. It's hard to go, boy, did I really fuck up.
Well, there is some divide now. This is one of the few times where it's not simply extreme leftism from the administration and Congress and everybody unified. The Democratic Party is not in love with what,
right?
Because Biden hasn't just thrown open the doors. It may not be satisfying to any party, but there is a divide there.
You mean
because between what he's doing and the Democratic
and
leadership.
That's what I'm getting at. A lot of wind has left their sails. I honestly, I think it might be a good thing in that it's eye-opening, that it'll have, maybe people will go back to thinking a little more. This is all hopeful, but hey, I'm talking. No, but I think what a good what if out of this scenario is that some people take a step back and go, we really got to pay attention to what's going on next time. Will it happen? Probably not, but maybe. So the other thing that, and I think Michael like this answer more than Mo, I think all of you will. So I'm telling her, I'm talking to the same person, and I'm like, these vaccine mandates, it's unlawful. It harkens back to, Nazi Germany, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, at some point you also have to say, because I believe you should get vaccinated. I don't think there's anything wrong. I don't think there's mind control. I don't think anybody's trying to get anybody killed. I think that probably it is keeping people from getting it. But at the end of the day, it's also your right to become part of the natural selection that might come from this. And that's really what it comes down to. People are probably going to die because they don't get it. And the ones that do will probably live.
Are you switching now to the vaccine mandate, or do you want to continue?
Well, no, this is just something I noticed from the people that were doing this. And she goes, and she starts talking about the bubonic plague, and she's like, well, so what does it what does it take? What does it have to get to for you to want to get rid of civil liberties? And my simple answer was, not this.
Nothing. Look, you want to.
They don't like rational thinking. They don't like logical responses, because she got mad. She got literally angry that I simply said, this is not where we lose our civil liberties. Bubonic plague, 2/3 of a country dying from something. Yeah, maybe I jump on board with the whole.
I don't even think it's justifiable then, because if you're saying you got a 2/3 chance dying, then people are going to line up to get that, and if they don't,
right, natural selection. But at least at that point, I can get the rationalization. But anyway, I wasn't so much getting at that. I'm getting at how just the Democratic side of things is not the Democratic side of things that I grew up, backing.
No.
And this is, and more to my point with anything is you can, whatever. There's still a problem at our borders. People are still trying to get into the countries. It's not like it's all stopped or it's 100% worse. It's still a problem. It's still going on. And really in the grand scheme of things, we're not solving the problem. We're just pushing it back. And you know what? It's probably just a really good distraction from some other shit we should really be paying attention to.
No, go ahead, Mike.
No, I'm just saying, all the stuff with the mandates, Biden pumped all this oxygen into that when the whole Afghanistan thing was circling the drain. Again, it's like it's kabuki theater, man. I mean, look, there is never a time where it's okay to violate people's civil liberties. They're natural rights. I mean, the only reason this country was formed or it made it through is because the Bill of Rights was written and inserted into the Constitution, or the country wouldn't even have made it this far, because that's how important it was.
I'm not trying to be contentious.
I don't know. I'm just saying.
Oh, no, on the whole taking away people's rights, because in my line of business, and I'm actually on your side, but that's a sticky one that you just said, because I take away people's rights pretty regularly when they are a danger to themselves or others. I am forced to, and I do it because I want to help them. I am forced to put what's called a B-52 into them. It's Benadryl, Haldol, and Ativan. It's a shot. It's to help them calm down. They don't want it, but in order to protect them from harming themselves or others, we do sometimes have to take steps to help people that don't have the capacity to help themselves. So again, I agree with you, but there is a point. There is a point where you, I think that for the greater good, I think, yes, you get the bubonic plague levels, maybe the foolish people that are not doing what's best for everybody and are harming themselves or others. As best you can, you try and encourage them to take it.
There's a difference between having a regulated industry with licensed professionals do certain things that are outlined in laws that were written by elected representatives voted by people. There's a big difference between that and having a dictatorial fiat from Washington, D.C. just arbitrarily state something, which is what we saw a few weeks ago, where Biden's like, we're impatient now. It's like, I mean, and this is like when we were talking about the machine gun nest, Zeus. There's a world of difference between, we have to charge machine gun nests now and just like speaking up. I'm just saying, of course, there are exceptions to things, but I mean, I just don't see how you can extrapolate what you're dealing with at a hospital thing to the greater society.
The microcosm.
Thank you.
You can. You can't.
No, you can't.
I mean, look, when I hold patients, or when the hospital holds patients in a hospital for against their
will, against their will.
So
how is that not a microcosm?
How did they end up in your care? Were they walking down the street?
They were a danger to themselves or others.
Okay, so there was a mechanism that got them to you. That's
all I'm saying. I get what you're saying. I don't believe in mandates. I'm not saying I believe in mandates.
But Zeus, what if that mechanism is simply you didn't get vaccinated?
Right. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of area to cover here. There's a lot of distance between these things.
It's a hard one, man. I'm not for mandate. I'm for if you are dumb enough, and this is just me. If you don't get it, it's kind of on you.
Well, how about this, Zeus? An unvaccinated person is not a threat to a vaccinated person.
Yeah, they are.
How?
You can still get it from somebody even though you've got the vaccine.
Okay, so the vaccines don't work, right?
They do, but you can still get it from somebody that's got it. So the more people, and I'm again, you guys,
People that are vaccinated have it.
But you guys know where I stand. I think I've made it clear. I do not like the mandates. Okay, I don't.
My philosophy on this is
but mainly for this, I don't like the mandates. I think the numbers are bullshit, and I think even if the numbers were real, it's so minute compared to so many other pandemics that have touched this planet that
the real numbers are that you have a 99.08999 survival rate.
Exactly.
That's huge.
Yeah. I'm just saying, if you don't get it and you die, that's on you. I'm not damning anybody for it. I'm just saying, if you don't get it, it's on you.
But how did we get it? Here's my question.
How did we get the vaccines from border?
and this isn't my point. Someone else made this.
Get on this show.
But I'm just saying, you know what you should do if you're wondering if you should get the vaccine or not? You should talk to your doctor. And you have a conversation with your doctor who knows what your medical history is. And then you and your doctor decide if you should get it. End of story. Like, why is Washington involved in this at all? Like,
I agree.
It's so absurd. I mean, listen, man, we are not subjects. We are individual free people.
Mike,
bend the knee.
The science, okay?
It's the science.
It's the science.
Don't listen to your doctor. Listen to the science.
Nope. Those are two different things.
Mike. Bend the knee.
Yeah.
The science.
Yeah, the science says 99.08999 survival rate. I think you're fine.
You know, listening to the science, no one ever wants to talk about natural immunity from people that have had it and have antibodies. In fact, Instagram banned the hashtag natural immunity. I mean, again, like I said, it's like a comedy show. I mean, George Carlin, his brain would be outside of his head right now if he were still alive, because the absurdity is you can't. It's impossible to exaggerate how crazy things are right now, with this sort of stuff. I mean, the conversations, I see things being discussed. I'm like, you guys are having the wrong conversation. Like I said, why is anyone besides myself and my doctor involved in the decision of whether I'm going to inject something into my body?
I agree.
I mean, what's the basis of that? And whatever if it better be, I mean, I fear that more than I fear COVID. I said that a year ago. I fear
Dr. Fauci is everybody's doctor.
Fauci is everyone's doctor.
There you go.
Listen to the Fauci.
Doctor's doctor.
Father Fauci.
No, he's the he's the patron saint of perpetual suffering.
He's the patron saint of perpetual pandemics. How long do you think this thing's going to go on? How long do you think they're going to be like, dance, little monkeys, dance?
Biden said we had to get to 98% vaccinated before it would be gone.
Yeah, but Mike, the scary thing is, what are they going to do next to make that happen?
The New York governor's taking the first steps.
Oh, yeah.
She's didn't she say something about bringing out National Guard or something?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, they're gonna shoot us with vaccine bullets.
Don't you want a 22-year-old mechanic that's a National Guardsman on his weekends doing your heart surgery because the doctor refused to take the shot?
In other words, all these nurses and doctors have to quit now.
thousands.
Dude, I got no time for another career, so fuck that. Whatever that noise is.
What's more dangerous to the health of a certain society or city? Firing 1,600 of the healthcare workers, or them not having the vaccine? I mean, to me, my question is, as just a Joe Blow citizen who's not a scientist, is like, why are there 1,600 people who work in healthcare in hospitals refusing to take the vaccine? Like, what do they know? And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but
Nah, dude.
can I get an answer to that question, please?
Listen,
I don't know.
I'm just this side of one of the ones that wouldn't have done it. So yeah, most nurses that I know, most doctors that I know are fine with getting it, gonna get it. A lot of them, however, interestingly, are like, I don't need a fucking booster. What? No. Now you're talking crazy talk. So I do find that intriguing. That we were willing to get the vaccine, which again, as a social responsibility, that's more why I did it than anything, because anti-vaxxers are, for the most part, assholes. Okay? I'm sorry. Jenny McCarthy is hot, but she's a blithering.
Okay, but you have a media and a party in this country that's calling people that are against mandates anti-vaxxers. Front page, bold-faced type.
That's nonsense. We've been getting the flu shot for.
But that's the discussion. I mean, turn on any show on television.
You have to get vaccines to go to school. They're talking nonsense. You can't go to school if you don't have your vaccines. There is no out. You have to do it. So, I mean, they're just full of shit. You kind of can't anti-vax. You know what I mean?
Look, this is the same people.
You follow what I'm saying, though?
I do, but again, this is the same thing where people talk about like there's Nazis in America. I'm like, you know how many active members of the Ku Klux Klan there are right now?
Like 4.
Last estimates, and this was like from a few years ago, it was like less than 3,000 people in the entire country. So you're talking about something.
Well, it's not like they all go up and sign a list.
My point is
this where I get my hood?
Propagandists take things that are this big and they make them this big. And this is like it's an irrelevant, statistically insignificant portion of the population. Having a conversation about it is a waste of time. Meanwhile, by the way, you better do this or you can't come into a restaurant or a grocery store. I mean, here's the other thing too that always happens.
Oh, wait a minute.
What?
As far as New York City with the vaccine mandates to go have dinner.
You have.
No, right. Talk about a disproportionate effect on a marginalized community.
Bingo. That's what I was just going to get to. Exactly.
Yeah. 72% of New York City Black people don't want the vaccine, don't want anything to do with it.
And this is what happens when you have authoritarianism. Like, you can only displace blame onto others so much, and you start running out of others. So if you look back, when Lenin, after 1917, when the communists took over Russia.
I am the walrus, Lenin?
Well, I'm just, no, not the same guy. So people who were his compatriots were showing up dead. And
shut the fuck up, Donnie.
Thank you.
When Castro took over in Cuba, a lot of the people that fought alongside him, his closest lieutenants, had unfortunate accidents. I'm saying these movements.
I don't think those were accidents.
They eat themselves, and you see it in New York right now. You've got this constituency.
If I could eat myself, I never leave the house.
The mayor's being a white supremacist for enforcing. I mean, it's insane. It's total insanity, man. Because they're always pushing the blame to somebody else, and then you just get into this circular firing squad eventually. And we're starting to see it. It's utterly predictable. It's happened before. It's nothing new.
No great nation has lasted more than like 300 years. outside of Rome. I think what Rome was like 1,000.
Give or take.
Yeah, everybody else it's been about 300. We've been showing some severe failures lately. So who's to say?
This is, yeah, I'm sorry.
Do you think it's a just conjectural question? Do you think it's a market failure? The competitive forces driving media and individuals within media to set aside values and truth in order to just propel the most sensational story over as high as it can?
Yeah,
I don't
power.
I don't think it's sensationalism like, little girl fell down a well, or OJ killed his ex-wife. Like I don't think it's just,
He didn't do it.
no, I don't think
I can't believe
don't-
he ended up getting Norm Macdonald like that.
no, I
OJ.
don't. Yeah, I don't think it's that. I think it is a power grab. I think they're all in on it.
It's 100% a power grab. How many times do you read any article that's critical of AT&T or Comcast or Time Warner or
No.
Disney
Fuck
company
Time Warner.
or Disney? What I'm saying is, if you are a large multinational, media organization, and you own one of these companies, you pretty much shield yourself. I mean, you don't have a lot of critical. I mean, how often does the Washington Post, even though they say there's this firewall between Bezos and the Post, how often do you see like negative Amazon stories in the Washington Post? You just don't see it.
But
But
Mike,
it is a power grab.
But Mike, you got to link the corporations that drive the media to the actual government power people.
Correct.
And that's the thing, is like people don't realize some of the biggest campaign donors to Biden and the DNC were these corporations and were the big banks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but who's to say that if Trump wasn't looking better, okay, hold on. If Trump wasn't looking better, that money wouldn't have gone his direction. I don't think they're picking a side that they feel aligned to.
No, I
think
think
they're picking the side that is most likely to win and put things in their favor.
It's not, yes, Zeus, but it's not Democrat Republican. It is power elite and everyone else.
I'll go one
Trump
step
was
further.
not a member of that party, man.
You want to talk 1984 Orwellian? Man, that's all about the media and the information that's provided to you running the world. So if you want to know
based on
media. The media is in more control than we even would want.
We allow it.
I don't remember signing anything.
Look, people
we don't
used to
shut it off.
People used to lament this.
Yep, we consume it.
What I'm saying, people used to lament. I remember back in the 80s, mainly because, civics education is shit in this country, and it's by design. If you look at like government controlled schools, now they want preschool, man. I mean, part of this whole bill, they want to mandate mandatory, federally funded preschool, because it's never enough. I mean, the reason they want to control the schools, the reason they want to have free college is our colleges are just indoctrination camps at this point. I mean, it's like there's no freedom of thought. There's no rigorous let's learn how to think and how to be critical thinkers in most of our colleges. It's you either think this way or you are not going to get through this, process.
Yeah,
that's why they want it to be free.
There's no Tolstoy's. There's no who's the guy Catcher in the Rye? Salinger's. There's no counterculture. Everything is co-culture now. It's whatever's going now.
It's monoculture now.
Right. I mean,
and yet it's called diversity, which again is so Orwellian. It's like we have diversity. We don't have diversity of thought on these college campuses. But anyway, my point is, back in the 80s, there were people that were like aware and perceiving like, yeah, why isn't our civics education so robust? Why aren't we learning about, things like separation of powers. These are things that are here to protect us, and that just got eroded and eroded and eroded from our children's curriculum. To be honest with you, the only reason I got as much education I did is because it was important to my mom, and I learned about all this stuff outside of school, as far as like how the government works, how many representatives we have, what the electoral college is. Like, it's like when, okay, I'm in construction, right? So I go and people were like, I don't know if I want to get a permit. I'm like, the permit, even though it's a pain in the ass for me, it's there to protect you, because you have a third party inspector comes out to make sure I'm not fucking up. And people are like, yeah, it seems like a lot of hassle and extra expense. Like, well, you're just at the whim. You're just lucky I'm a good guy, because I mean, you're the one that's going to get taken to the cleaners when you hire someone else. It's the same thing. It's like, civics, it's boring, whatever. It's like, it's there to protect us. It's important for us to understand how it works. And when we just sit there and rely on Jim Acosta or Brian Stelter or Chris Cuomo to tell us what the deal is in Washington, it's a train wreck, man. It's a train wreck.
And Jason, you're probably going to be the guy to go to with this, but we haven't really had a new, like a philosophical explosion in a long time. Like, you had your Aquinas, you had your Ibn Rushdi, you had your John Locke's, your transcendentalism, all these things. And we really haven't gone through any philosophical evolution in a long time, meaning like a change in how we look at things. We just settled on whatever was there, whatever we've learned, call it invisible hand or any of these other theories. And we've kind of gone into this stasis. The zeitgeist is kind of vanilla and bland, and there's no, again, Tolstoy's, John Locke's, I forgot his name already. There's nobody.
Colonel Sanders.
No, but you know what I'm saying? There's nobody like shocking our systems, getting us to think in a new and different and positive way, or even negative way, so we can counter it. We're just kind of floating in the ether, we're getting lazy with our internets and our escalators.
Well, I think that's a good point. More towards the end there, it's not like there isn't
escalators.
It's not that those people don't exist. There's just so much information out there that it takes that much more to make an impact. There's so much more technology. There's so much more that we have to know and understand. I mean, there's all kinds of public intellectuals discussing everything. I mean, I guess TED was sort of an attempt to bring that to the public.
You mean TED Talks?
Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of.
But there's not like a revolution, like a cultural revolution, like worldwide, like. All these things that we're talking about, that stuff exploded. It became viral. It was like how the world began to think. I mean, Aquinas brought religion to the common folks. Ibn Rushdi, or Al-Farabi, he's the same guy, but different names. These guys brought religion to the common people. Religion used to be like something that was just for the wealthy. And it was all just, myths and stories for the less educated. And those kind of philosophy, those philosophers made it digestible to people. And we're just in this place where there's what we know, and then there's so much more out there that we're not attaining because we're not challenged anymore. You want information, you just Google it.
Those people get banned from Facebook, Zeus.
Yeah. Hey, Zeus, Mike hates Facebook.
I was leaning towards maybe asking him about that, but I didn't want to offend him if he was.
It's like if someone in your neighborhood came and took a shit on the hood of your car every morning, and you're like, I think they're kind of a nice person if you get to know them. It's like, no, they're taking the shit on the hood of your car every morning.
No,
They're not
but
people.
Facebook is more like if I took a shit on the hood of my car and then I took a picture of that shit and shared it with 300 of my closest friends.
But listen, I would say, and this, I'm not being like flag waving, like, oh, here we go, man. Here we go. I got to switch back. Look at this disaster.
Ah, where'd he go?
Anyway,
What
so
happened?
not-
It is.
there it goes again, man.
Ah!
But what I'm trying to say is, I think to your
Ah!
point
Wait, where am I?
about what's radical and what's not radical. Again, it's zoom out a little bit, look at the world from, a few miles away. I would posit that a government that
What
a
does
government of the
posit
people.
mean?
Well, I'm saying a government of the people, run by the people, that values self-determination and individual liberty, and strives, even though it knows that entropy is all powerful, and that we try to make this government that like fights against that for a while. That is a radical idea. That is not something. I mean, we live in it, so we don't see it as radical as much, I guess. But in the entire history of humankind, even have a government that's like, look, this is what's important to us, and we're going to pursue this, however flawed, whether it works or not. That before us, it hasn't gotten to this. We are the radicals, man. It's like all the people who are the iron-fisted authoritarians. That's the norm. We are the radicals. We are the revolutionaries, man.
Well,
I guess that's kind of my look at it.
I'd like to know what Henry Cavill would say about all this.
I mean, it's like perfection is the enemy. People are like, well, it's not perfect. I'm like, well, what's perfect, man? I mean, what we were handed with our form of government, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it.
Right. Yeah. Talk about like philosophy that meant something. I mean, like the last one we had might have been that.
What's that?
The founding fathers, the document.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of leaning with John Locke. I think John Locke was huge.
Well,
thinking outside ourselves. There's a world outside there. There's a meta of sorts. I think our next philosophy, you know what I think it's going to be? It's going to be some merging of like this worldwide web that we're in waves of information. And I mean, there's still hope. It just doesn't feel like it right now. And again, that kind of leans back to maybe where Dana was coming from, of an emergence of something new and different.
Yeah.
But that's also because that all that's about us being the radicals and self-government and liberty and natural rights, that we seem to be in a hurry to jettison all that.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
that's the bedrock, the foundation of the society and our success. And
right.
It would work. It has worked.
Yeah. Well,
seems to work, but
Jason, there was like the rights were natural, inalienable rights, like by God or something that we can't see, and
not from the government.
Not from the government. And then, we did have postmodernism where nothing means anything.
Well, and they made the concept.
And once nothing means anything, then anything goes.
That sounds like song lyrics. Did you just use song lyrics?
No.
I think
with a ball, bang, bang, diggy, diggy,
Yeah.
just like Kid Rock said.
Yeah.
Well, I genuinely want to understand. I don't know why people on the right or the left feel like they have a
All the
duty
knowledge.
or the right to pass laws that force other people into anything, whether it's stopping someone from marrying who they want to marry, or taking money from somebody to fund a program that they personally feel would be right. I don't understand where that comes from.
It's human. And Jason, that's a great, and I don't know either, but my guess is that it's human nature. And that's what, again, that's the beauty of our founding documents, was to try to buttress our
mean
government against that. I mean, again, if you look, in the Federalist Papers, they're not like, hey, we're creating this government, it's going to last 10,000 years. They're like, we're going to try and slow down the inevitable. I mean, that's pretty much what their attitude was. I mean, Franklin's famous line of like, she's like, what were you guys doing? Or, what have you done, or what have you made? And he's like, a republic, if you can keep it. Like, they knew it was, look, inertia is the strongest force in the galaxy, right?
That's why the Constitution is a living document. It was supposed to be this evolving.
Not at its core. It's like the specifics and the amendments and things like that, yes. But the truths that we hold to be self-evident, those were not to be flexible. Those are statements of fact.
Yeah, I completely agree. But it was made to adapt with changes. It falls short on a few things, like, it can be argued that the guns that they were using at the time, they might have reconsidered things when they looked at the guns that we have now.
The idea was to have an armed populace against the
I know.
against the tyranny of its own government. That was the idea.
Yeah, but we gave our own government the better guns.
Here's the thing.
They still have the better guns.
When this country was founded, you had 13 individual governments. They had their own currency. Founded. They had their own currency. They had their own politics. They had all kinds of differences. And the one thing they had in common is Britain was shitting on them. They were colonies of Britain, and they all were geographically in the same general area. They were under the same laws from Britain, and they got together and like, bugger this, man. This guy doesn't even live over here. King George never comes to visit. Why are we giving away all our blood and treasure to these people? And they got together and they kicked the ass of the most powerful country on the planet. And then when they had to form a government, which took years after that, when they formed a government, they were like, listen, we recognize that we need to compete on the world stage, that we, Maryland, was trying to make treaties with France. And it was crazy. They're like, we're going to be more powerful together, right? If we don't unite, we're going to die. From many one, the whole thing, e pluribus unum, all that stuff. So then they're like, look, we need a central federalized government to take care of standing armies, protecting borders, and negotiating trade deals between us. All right. The whole idea of the Constitution was to put chains on that federal government, to keep it in check, to make sure it did not become what we're witnessing today, this leviathan of control and centralized power. That is what the Constitution, Zeus, was designed to handcuff the federal government. And the federal government is now saying, we don't need this Constitution anymore. And people are like, yeah, that's a good idea. It's like, it's the same thing with permits. It's there to protect us. And people don't realize that.
Hey, Mike.
I'm glad we had this long conversation about the border problem.
You know what, Zeus? This is like the good old days. We moved on.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a jumping off point.
I didn't get to tell my story about, I've actually been an illegal immigrant.
Okay, come on.
I was an illegal immigrant in Japan for 3 weeks.
So did you have a visa, or did you need, what's the story?
I was teaching in Japan, and I was told by multiple sources that when my work visa expired, I had the equivalent of a tourist visa's time to exit the country. That was not true. So I was 3 weeks after it expired, I went to the airport. I was flying out, And the agent looked at my passport and she's like, "You don't have a visa." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm leaving." And it just became a deal. They had to go get their immigration guy, who was the rudest Japanese person I have ever met. And
Just
They
to leave.
and
Just,
exactly,
Just
they're
to
like,
leave.
exactly.
What was
I
the
was at
story?
the airport.
What
And
was the problem?
because my work visa had expired, so I did not have any visa at that point. So they forced me to stay in the country, get a visa in order to leave the country.
Was it a monetary thing? Like, were they trying to shake you down or something?
It was just
Procedural.
Procedural. They're Japan's fantastic bureaucracy. There's a rule for everything, and this wasn't how they weren't going right. You have to make things go right. So
Were you pleading ignorance? Like, hey, man, I'm just, or
No, yeah.
tried.
Does he have to plead it?
This guy was not having any of that. Like I said, he was just the rudest Japanese guy I ever met. He would have nothing.
Where might go?
I'm trying to leave.
that's just,
I'm
I mean,
going to leave.
did you have to stay at the airport and stuff, or?
No, I mean, that's they're not so draconian.
You must travel around the country for another 2 months.
That's exactly what I did.
There's worse places to be stuck, though, I guess.
Right, exactly.
Correct. And I had, I had friends there, so I'd left a house. I had roommates, so I just went back to the same place and stayed for a couple more weeks.
Jason was like slowly backing out of the room, going, "So I have to stay here with all these beautiful Japanese women."
There's so much about like the international laws and stuff that is just mind-boggling to me. Like, you almost need a lawyer. I have a friend that he's lived in Peru for years, and he has to leave. I don't know how, like every 3 months or something, for like 6 days, and then he can come back, or maybe it's 2 weeks. So he goes to Bolivia most of the time and hangs out
Jason's
for a couple weeks and then comes back in
until we say you can leave. So, wait, do you want to stay? Yes, I do. Okay, well, as much as it bothers us, you're going to have to stay.
Yeah. What are you doing here unauthorized? You need to stay here longer, get authorized, and then you can go.
Wait, are you going to put me in prison? No, we're going to put you into the finest of hotels.
But were there like fines and stuff like that, or was it just time? It
was just time. The cost of going through
him.
Just the cost of going through the visa process. Normal costs. I had to write why I didn't have one, but that was just a formality.
And they were like, "And if you come back without it, we'll tell you this a second time."
But and then, like, if I had flown to Korea, and then flown back, if I'd flown to Korea the day my visa expired and then flown back, I'd be instantly have a 90-day tourist visa because I'm an American.
It's all a game. It's all a game from the airlines, man. They're all behind this just to get more ticket sales.
You know what? If I were Mother Nature or nuclear science, I would attack Japan relentlessly.
Nah, dude, they already got Godzilla, dude.
That's what I was saying, Jack.
And traveling throughout Southeast Asia as well, you always had to be aware of which country had which limitations on visas, like where you had to apply, where you could just enter because you had a US passport. I don't know why, but I remember in Indonesia, they said specifically, you have 30 days. And the guidebook said this, and you do not miss that 30-day window because you will end up in a prison and you will not like it.
So what about, and again, I'm not like super experienced world traveler, but like if I'm just like hopping on a plane and going to Spain for 2 weeks, I don't need a visa, right? I mean, I can
most European places. Yeah. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, you're okay. But once areas you don't have that treaty in place.
You know, it's interesting. I'm so glad that we had this discussion on the border crisis and how it leads to international travel law.
Well, that's how we do.
It's important stuff, man.
This may be the most ADD episode we've ever done.
Well, yeah, no, Zeus, you covered that.
All right, and so let's wrap it up. This fucking asshole.
Wait, were we gonna do like bad movies too? Was that this week?
No, it's 11 o'clock, dude.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
It's past Jack's bedtime.
Yeah.
Movies has been closed for like 6 hours.
I'm just happy Jack made it through this whole episode without leaving. I was ready to get up and go.
Yeah, the old prostate was working well tonight, wasn't it?
No, I got up and peed once.
Oh, that's
I
right, you
missed it.
did.
I must have been on one of my rants.
Yeah, you were. I think.
I just
All
did
right,
tunnel
boy.
vision.
It really could be a blooper reel. Every episode, I guarantee Jack is left. And
Well,
I'll
you
bet
know-
the ones that he wasn't on, he was just peeing the whole time.
Yeah. Hey, I'm on fucking pills. They make me pee. Sorry.
I'm on the
All right.
pills, Jack.
All right, let's think about an episode. Let's try and get it thought out by Saturday. Does anyone? I'll try and hosting next week.
So that I was reading podcast.
I think it's Zeus's
101.
Don't worry, Mike. We'll have a new crisis by then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'll try to pick something that's not topical. How about that? That's a challenge for me.
All right. Good
But
luck.
what do we think we might want to talk about? Because I think that's something we should start doing is doing like a and
Yeah,
next week kind of.
you can't do that though, because the zeitgeist. Like every week something happens.
We use the term zeitgeist way too much on this show. Just saying.
We use a lot of terms way too much.
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
said COVID about 632,000 times.
Mm.
And vax. It's not even a word.
No, I was talking about you.
Oh, bite me. Fucking old man.
Mhm.
He's younger than me. Do you get that? He's younger than me.
Mm.
Wait, I think I hear a fire alarm. I gotta get going. I'll
Yeah.
see you guys next week.
One light
All right.
goes out, they all go out.
Have a good night.
Take care,
Bye,
guys.
guys.
All right, guys. See you later. Take it easy, Jack.
See you, Zeus.
See you, buddy.